Can you guys hear me?
Hi,
Hey,
Kasey.
Casey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How's it going? It's Friday.
It's Friday. Well, let me get a few things out of the way and then we'll get started, okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Sherry Pluskota, and I'm happy you're joining me live or listening at a future time. I appreciate you and thank you for such. Welcome to my co host, Donna, and many thanks to her for asking Casey to join us for this interview tonight. So, hey, Donna.
Hey, Sherry. Hey, Kasey.
Hey, Donna. Good to hear you again.
And you too, my darling. Thank you for this.
Of
Much
course.
appreciated.
All right, let me get a couple more things out of the way. First, a thanks to my sponsor, Elevator Results. If you need a tailor made workout plan to help you lose weight or gain weight, Elevator Results can design that plan. Follow them on Twitter and check their site out at elevatorresultspt.com. A reminder you can find all the recordings of my past spaces, including our daily WSOP coverage and all of our interviews on my YouTube channel at Sherry Pluskota 9212. Now, a little intro. My guest was born in Oklahoma. She went to school to become a biologist and is currently a professional poker player. After playing many hours of cash at Stone, she found herself in the commentary booth doing a great job, as well as unfortunately being part of the whistleblowing crew. Casey's poker resume includes her finding a spot in the Bill Perkins Thirst Lounge. She is currently a sponsored pro of the Poker Now online site. Casey has over $456,000 in total life earnings on the Hendon Mob, with her best life cash of $66,000 for her first place finish in the 2024 WSOPC Monster Stack at Choctaw, which was a $1,000 buy-in event, which of course also got her first circuit ring. She went on to win her second ring barely 2 days later after her first place finish in the $400 no limit finale tournament. Casey has 22 circuit caches and one WSOP cache. And I'm welcoming Kasey Lynn Mills to my space. I'm so happy you joined us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. And I want to introduce you to another co host, John Robertson. Please meet Casey.
Hello, welcome to the space. Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get started, should we? Yes. How did you start playing poker, Casey? Tell us your background.
I'm actually on my father's side, we're Colombian and we have a big, spicy Colombian family. And my grandmother, who on my father's side, she like always had a big change purse full of change and at family
Uh oh.
screaming.
I'm sorry, you
What's
cut out for a moment. Were you getting a phone call?
No, it just I soundboard was screaming. I think maybe my phone was doing that. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you now. So tell us
Okay.
again, Grandma had a pocket full of change or a purse
She
full
had a
of
big
change.
purse full of change, and that's how we started playing as kids. But and I just always had a competitive spirit. My grandmother's like a huge inspiration to me. She's just this incredible woman who just does everything. And she's passed away now, but I kind of feel like a lot of her spirit is in me, her like very fiery spirit. But yeah, growing up in Oklahoma, we also had a big poker room right during the boom. We had one of the biggest rooms in the country, and I started playing there like very, very young.
Right on. Tell us how you got the nickname Poker Mama.
Well, I love poker so much, but there's only one thing. I mean, there's a few things possibly that I love more, but my son is my whole world. And it's always the first thing on my mind is him and everything I do as far as playing my motivation. So much of it has to do with making our life better and him and
Sure.
being a mom to him and trying to give him a good start and become a healthy whole person. So there's just no mama, there's no me without Poker Mama. That's what it is, and that's what I made it a long time ago when I was playing online.
I love it. I love it. Now, Danny Marks, I don't know you, but welcome to the panel.
Thank you. I'm just here to listen.
Well, I'm glad you are.
Hi, Danny.
Hey, Kasey, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thank you for joining us, Danny. I appreciate you coming on board. Um,
Always.
you bet. Kasey, tell us how you study for poker.
There are a lot of different ways. One of my favorite ways of studying is with other players that I really respect. So Danny, who just joined the space, is somebody that I talk poker with all the time. He's a really amazing poker player, actually, and we talk poker a lot. And so I always try to find players that I think that are better than me, and talk about poker and like pick up things everywhere. But I do use a GTO Wizard. I've used just about every training site there is. I'm very ADHD, so I take a little bit from everywhere
Right.
and compile it all together and try to, do a lot of bite-sized studying. So between Jaka and Raise Your Edge and Run It Once and Solve for Why, done. I've run the gamut of studying materials, and yeah,
Well, and
and still do.
I'm so glad you touched on it like that because I am the same way, and I think a lot of people are because everybody has to plug into their own game plan, right? And so those plugs come from many different places, and it's not a one stop shop. You just have to do what works for you. So I'm so
Right.
glad you kind of mentioned that. Um,
Sometimes I'm wanting to, study a specific spot and I want to use GTO Wizard, or maybe I want to brush up on my rangers and I need to study using a range trainer, or I need some new concepts or ICM. And a lot of those things you need to find from different places, as well as like watching these high-end streams on Poker Go, like the really high-end ones. I like to go and really watch what the elite players are doing against each other as well. So yeah, I think it's important to be well-rounded. You have to utilize like every possible way of getting better, including playing a lot.
Totally, totally. Um, can you tell our listeners about your routine when you're getting ready to play? And you use a lot of positive affirmations. Can you tell us how important that is to you, and maybe share one of your favorites?
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up. Everybody's different and what works for everyone is different. But what I found coming from the background I didn't have like the best start as far as like mindset. I didn't have like just these great uh, role models for positive mindset and wealth growth and just like self improvement. And so instead, I kind of developed a highly critical voice that can be really hard on myself. And I can be a bit of a perfectionist. And what I found over time, playing poker is in order for me to really level up, believe in myself, have confidence, trust myself, as I have to be pouring a lot of positivity in. And so it became a non negotiable a while back for me to use these affirmations before my sessions. I think, especially in tournament poker, it becomes really important because, tournament poker is just, it is pain. You so often are going to not cash, and so often, it's just a mental struggle. You're going through so many bad beats, and it's a different world than cash. And I think it becomes even more important to stay really mentally tough and on top of your mental game. And so um, I use a lot of the Waking Up series. Because he just has so many good ones that have to do with gratitude, love, belief. So on YouTube, Waking Up by Sam, I forget his last name, but the Waking Up series on YouTube. There's just infinite good ones. They even have a 24-hour channel that just runs all the time, and
Wow.
that's what I use.
Well, thank you for that information, and I'm sure our listeners will take you up on that YouTube information. We spoke with Drew Gonzalez, bet on Drew last week, and we talked to him about, he played on Poker Out Loud, and I really recommended to people to go listen to some of those episodes,
Yes.
um, because you're really getting a glimpse into how to self talk.
Right.
because like you said, so many times we get negative and we're focused on the wrong things and we're not in the moment. And it's so important to be in the moment. And I think listening to those pros play and how they're self-talking is so important. And everybody can learn from that, and is it an adjustment? Yes, you have to kind of retrain yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think those the poker out louds were so great too. I mean, there were they had some really good players on there. I remember like Chewy was on there as well.
Right.
And I mean, getting to listen to what their inner monologue is when they're going through a hand. How awesome. I thought that was such a cool concept that they did.
I loved it. And every time, I rewatched a few episodes in preparation to speak with Drew, and I caught some new things. Like it doesn't get old. Like you can continue to learn from those episodes because they're jam packed with these pros self-talking, and it's amazing. Like, I highly recommend it, people. Donna, did you have some questions?
I did. Hi again, Kasey.
Hello.
Nice to speak to you again. How did you meet Dara? Because that's how we met. How long have you known Dara, and where did you meet him?
Met how long have I known who?
Dara
Dara.
O'Kearney.
I think I met him like a couple of years ago at WSOP, and I don't know him well, but I think I had gone up to him because I had recently used some of his study materials back when I was using more Jaka. He had made some videos for Jaka. He made an ICM course that I really enjoyed, and a few others that I found really important. And so I had watched those, and I actually came up to him and was just like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know I really enjoyed your video and got a lot out of it." And so that's how we met a couple years ago at WSOP.
That's awesome. You've been to Costa Rica lately. How did that go?
You know what? I've been to Costa Rica a bunch of times. And this time was really, really incredible. Um, just getting to do so many fun new things that I'd never done that I maybe wouldn't have challenged myself to do normally, including surfing, which I almost backed out of doing, but did. I'm a huge, one of my other passions besides playing poker has always been horses ever since I was a young girl. I mean, I've been a lover of animals, but horses specifically, another thing that my grandmother introduced me to when I was very young that we shared, and I just feel really free and just so happy whenever I'm riding and like one with the animal. And so I got to gallop this beautiful horse on the beach in Costa Rica, and it was a really highlight moment that I'll probably remember for a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my bucket list items, shall we say. I love the fact that you've done that.
Yeah, it's such a passion, and so glad you playing poker so much and grinding. I love playing poker, but getting back out into nature and reconnecting, it's so grounding. And I feel like coming back, I always feel like stronger and better and ready to really take it to the next level whenever I rejuvenate myself doing those sorts of things that I love.
So, what's been your favourite place to play then, out of all the places where you've been?
That is my favorite place to play. Hmm. Well, probably Choctaw Casino in Durant, Oklahoma, because I won all three of my World Series of Poker rings there. So it's like a really good spot for me. So I've gotten really familiar with a lot of the players, a lot of the dealers and staff and the area. And I've had a lot of success at that location. So for tournaments, I'd say Choctaw. But there was a time when I would have said Stones because there was a time whenever playing at Stones was so fun, and we just had like such this group of people that we just all loved poker and we all loved having fun, and it was always a party, and it was like this whole like cheers type of environment. I used to love playing at Stones, and that was before the it all came crumbling down
Right,
around us. But
right.
now
We'll
I
get
play a
into
lot at
that.
Texas Card House in Dallas. I play cash there a lot, and I do enjoy it.
Awesome. I see Danny has his hand up, Donna. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, yeah, I was just wondering if you feel like you know like your biggest strength and your biggest weakness when it comes to poker. I know it's kind of an ambiguous question, but something along those lines.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. My biggest strength and my biggest weakness. Um, I think my biggest strength has got to be my ability to hyper focus when I am, and to like take in just a lot of information in different ways at a time, and really like just kind of find that zone. And when I'm there, I feel like I'm one of the best in my head. When I'm in my zone, when I'm playing my A game and I'm hyper focused, I feel like I'm one of the best players there is, because I'm reading my opponent's micro expressions and their movements and deciphering that, but I'm also keeping track of so much data and calculating, and that's the best place to be. My biggest weakness, I would still say something that I have feel like has cost me the most money over the last year, is there's a few different spots where I wish I had could take have taken back. Like, I just know that I should have overfolded, or on the turn or the river. I shouldn't have like made a hero call. I think as a woman, so often we we've been bluffed a lot, and we've correctly made so many calls, and it's made us so much money. And so we also have to really train ourselves to make some really big folds, and remind myself that I get to fold, that I don't have to fold. Because I think sometimes in my brain it's like I have to fold, and what if I'm best, and what if I have the best hand and I'm wrong, and they're bluffing me, like that feeling of not wanting to get bluffed, or whatever it may be. um and so now, like, really trying to train myself to, like, no, with this line, with this situation, I get to fold here, and I get to exploitatively fold. So I think biggest weakness in the past, no longer a weakness, because going into 2025, I'm making all the good folds, and we are taking it to the next level. But yeah,
That away.
that's what it would be.
I love that. Great questions. In the introduction, I mentioned that your first two WSOP circuit rings were in Choctaw last year, but
Mhm.
I failed to mention that third ring that you won in January for taking down that six-handed event at Choctaw, which was a $400 buy-in. Please tell us any highlights that come to mind in that journey to that third ring during that tournament.
Okay, yeah, there were actually quite a few really good moments in that one as we got down to the final two tables. There's a few hands that I remember, but there's one specifically. Well, we can talk about when we actually did get down to the final table. I came into the final table as the chip leader, um, although it wasn't like a huge chip lead, and there was a time where I was. Every time I would open, I was getting 3-bet jammed on repeatedly. It was getting a little bit frustrating,
Right.
but I was really disciplined and practiced some good patient stack preservation, recognizing that my opponents were likely just having top of range, and I didn't need to get frustrated and make light calls. So three different times I opened and had to fold to 3 bets and 3-bet jams, and I was patient. I lost a few chips, but I kind of like took that as it was. And as this was happening, I was just paying attention to everything and everyone, and I happened to get what I felt was a really good physical read on the opponent to my right, who turns out I ended up getting heads up with, and is a bracelet winner. But when we were still had like 5 or 6 left, I remember telling Danny, who was on my rail at the time, that I had a good read on that specific opponent. Well, he ended up busting like 2 or 3 people, and we ended up getting heads up, and he was the chip leader. And
And
going into heads up play, him with an advantage, he was also a pretty tight opponent. And so I was a little nervous to how this was all going to play out and how heads up was going to go. But we got into a hand where I had been opening almost every button in heads up. You're going to be opening a lot, raising a
right,
lot from the button. So I opened but this specific time, I just limped in with 8-5 offsuit, and he just called with we don't know. The flop came out ace 8 uh 3 with two spades, and I had no spade in my hand. The flop went check, check. On the turn, it was a 7, and he checks, and I let out for about 2.5 big blinds, which the blinds were 30K at the time, so about 80K. He
right.
raised to like 350K, and putting the hand together after watching him and the read that I had on him, I just didn't think that he had any traps. That I think so. I think all of his ace X would have opened pre. He didn't seem to be the type of opponent who would have been slow playing an ace X or like or
Right.
unopening it. So I didn't put him on a lot of ace X. And there's a flush drawn board. I just the whole situation, it felt correct to make the call. So I made the call. The river ended up being it was either a deuce or a 4. So anyway, we ended up blocking the straight by having the 5 in our hand, and obvious and we unblocked flush draws. These were both offsuit, so the flush misses. We blocked the straight with our 5. We unblocked draws. We don't. We It was a limped pot, so we don't put them on a lot of ace X or a lot of pairs, and we have second pair with 8 high. He goes for 450K. There's only 3 million chips in play. So if I make this call, this pot's going to be almost 2 million. And it's
Wow.
just like a huge, huge pot. And if you can imagine, all I have is 8-5. Um,
Right.
and this is, just a huge amount of my chips. I will only have like maybe 8 to 10 bigs left if I make this call and I'm wrong. And after tanking and thinking it through and putting everything together with the read I had on the player and my hand, I flicked in the call, and I heard him say queen high. And
Nice.
I was just that was
Yes.
a huge moment for me in the tournament, that where the tides turned. I took the chip lead. I felt like that he actually felt pretty demoralized after that spot, and it was only a few hands later that I ended up winning the tournament. And that was just a huge hand for me, where I had to utilize both my hand reading ability as well as like my reads on the opponent and the situation to find the win there.
Awesome. Are there any stories you'd like to tell us about those journeys to the first two rings you won last year? Anything
Oh,
stick out in your mind you'd like to share?
there are some things. There were some moments in the second one, the finale. I was tired. I had been playing for days. I had won that one, came back, bagged a big stack, and then had to come back and play day two and went. So it was just like a long grind, and I was exhausted. And I made a big mistake. Again, it was a situation where I made a light call off when we were like 3 tables left. It was 21, and I ended up, I just should have known better. This guy just has it too often. And I was so punishing myself because, as much as I say like, oh, I should have known better and overcall, I typically play very well, and I often feel like proud of most of my plays, but I felt like it was a blunder, and it was a blunder late game. And when you make these blundery moments and you're like, I could have just I likely just cost myself the tournament. I called, I was wrong. Um, and you can feel the heat. I can feel the heat rising in my body. I can feel myself starting to go into this tilt mode, and it's like, what are we going to do now? Like,
Right.
how am I going to handle this now? Am I now going to try to open a bunch of hands and try to get my chips back? Am I going to what am I going to do? Like, am I going to let this affect my future game? And it became more important to me than ever to just focus on perseverance and remind myself it's literally what life is all about. And I took when we went on break, I did mindfulness and meditation um, I reminded myself that doing the mistakes is part of the process, and like loving yourself through your mistakes, and remind like for me, finding the beauty and the imperfection and the love through just being imperfect, and learning self-acceptance and self-love so that you can overcome, so that you can go on and be successful. And in this moment, I chose to reset and choose that I could continue to play my A game and play well, and rather than let myself, tilt off and go downhill. And I played elite after that mistake, and was able to bounce back and close out that tournament to win the back-to-back rings. And
Good
I
for
just
you.
prided myself on not allowing that big mistake to be, game changing. Even if I hadn't won, it's so much about the mental victory and the win of like continuing to play your best after some big flub or whatever.
Absolutely. And as much as we want to be perfect, we're not, right? And we have to know that it only comes down to a mistake here and a mistake there. It's and we sometimes focus on those couple of mistakes and forget about all of the 50 or 60 correct moves we made, because
To get us there, right?
yeah.
Exactly. And that's so me. It's so me. It's like every mistake
Yes.
I would lash myself for, but I'm not thinking about the hundreds of decision points that I had to play so well in order to put myself in contention to even be
Exactly.
at that spot. And so trying to remind ourselves of that. And
Exactly.
poker is hard. You have so many decisions all the time. And in these late games when you're tired, it's for huge amounts of money. And yeah, so practicing self forgiveness and fortitude and perseverance is what it's all about.
Very important. Go ahead, Danny. Did you have another question or comment?
Yeah, I know you've been playing poker for a very long time, like most of us. And, early on, you'd have varying levels of interest and study. And then some amount of years ago, you started to take it really seriously and try to become really good. And so, my question is, in the last few years, do you feel like there's been any aha moments, so to speak, along the way where something just kind of starts to click, or was it more gradual, or is it kind of hard to quantify?
It is really hard to quantify. I will say that it can't be for me understated how much like breaking down doors really mattered for me in specifically in tournament poker, because I just feel like so often until we see ourselves actually do something or see somebody else that like us do something, it's just really hard to see ourselves doing it. And I think once you get a little bit farther, each time you make a redraw, you make a shoe table, you make a final table, you get a second, you get another second, and then and then finally you get a first. That self belief, I think, is really what propelled me. I always continuing to plug in. I love poker, so I love watching it. I love talking about it, learning about it, working on my game. So all those things were there and the passion was there, but I needed to see myself win, and I needed to have that inner belief and confidence in myself. And I think that was a huge, huge key for me. And also I will say that a couple of my second places drove me. They drove me to like really want to show that I could do it and be so motivated towards winning. And I think if I had just gotten the first right off the bat, I might not have been as motivated and as hungry as I was.
Well, and confident. I mean, you had to gain a bunch of confidence from those second place
Exactly.
place wins as well. Correct. I know you live in the Dallas area. Have you in the past, or are you currently working on anything in the state of Texas to legalize poker, or you have any updates on that
Well,
process?
we have quite a bit of poker rooms that some of that some of which are believed to be running within the laws, because I think
Right.
so much of it is like county by county.
Right. There's a lot of
So
gray area. I just
yeah,
didn't know if there was any movement on the state level yet.
I mean, I know that a lot of people have been fighting to get the legislation our way, and I think there are people that are motivated to want to make that happen. Some big names with a lot of money who want to move, like right
Right.
now, that want to move this money into Texas because they want their piece of the pie. And hopefully, poker is going to end up being a beneficiary of that, of these people who want to legalize gambling or sports betting, whatever it may be in Texas, and take some of that Oklahoma. Because in Oklahoma it's legal and they have the Indian casinos, so I'm hoping that will
Right.
work in our favor, to get it more legalized. But we are seeing quite, we have just a very big poker community here, and it's budding and booming. And we just opened up another new room. It's really nice. I'm supposed to be going to check out possibly this weekend. Um, in Fort Worth, the Desperado Club. So I haven't done a lot to work on legalizing it, but I do keep my eye on what's going on there
Sure.
because
Sure.
it's obviously really huge for my livelihood living here.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. All right. I was just trying to see if there was anything that has come through the pipe that I may have missed myself. Um, I am wondering. Go ahead, John. Did you have a question?
Well, since we're talking about Texas and Dallas, I have to know, how do you feel about the Luca trade?
You know, how do I feel about the Luca trade? I feel a little amused. I'm sorry. I feel amused because everyone is like freaking out so hard. Like I've never seen people so upset. I get it. I do get it. And um I think it's kind of crazy that it was so hush hush that no one knew, that everyone was so surprised. But ultimately it doesn't mean too much to me, and I kind of enjoy seeing everybody like freaking out all over the place.
I love it. Listen, I need to give a little shout out to Maddie S, who's down in the goo listening. I want to tell you I'm proud of you. You've been working on yourself, and that's amazing. And you final tabled a tournament down at Pompano yesterday, or was it? Yeah, I guess it was yesterday. And I'm proud of that effort. So congratulations on that final table, Maddie S.
Congratulations, Maddie.
Um, Okay, so there's we in the spaces, we have lots of discussions about different topics, of course.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Cody Stanford, who rebought into a $400 tournament down in the Beau Rivage in Biloxi. It's probably 2 weeks ago now. He rebought into that $400 tournament 35 times. And we
Wow.
had a few discussions here in the spaces. Um,
35 times.
yeah, about coming up with a number of rebuys to limit, you know, tournaments to. So if you had to think
Did he go
about a
on to win?
magical, I'm sorry,
Did he go on to win?
not that tournament, but he did win the tournament the next day, I believe.
Okay.
Um, what magical number would you be happy with if you had to limit the amount of buy-ins? Would it be 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, or would you
I'm more for having some tournaments that are unlimited and some that are freeze out, and then some that are like two or three rebuys, because I do think that there should be all the different formats. But if we had to limit them all, well, because I do like a freeze out, like the main event's just such an incredible event
true.
as a freeze out. But I would say, like, if there's multiple fights, I like the two re-entries per day.
Okay.
One, like, so if there's like
Right.
multiple flights, you can still come
Right.
back the next day and fire again. But like two a day, I think is good. Two to three, I
Right.
think is a good amount.
What is the most amount of times you've rebought into a tournament, if we can be so
I
nosy?
think six. I think six to
And
eight
see,
probably, but it's probably six. I don't think I've ever done eight. I think it's around six to seven, maybe
And
seven.
see to me, the magic number should be 6 or 8. I
Yeah,
think that gives those that want to rebuy, a chance to do so. It builds the prize pool, and it doesn't eliminate those that don't have deep pockets. Like, it's not an unfair
right.
advantage. Most people can't rebuy in 35 times into a $400 tournament, right? And so, uh,
Mhm.
to me, there has to be a balance for everybody. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the subject. But okay, I mentioned in the intro that you did play and work at Stones, and of course, I'm sure you already knew this. These questions were going to come up, but
I didn't think about it, but it's been a few years, but I always get Stone's
of
questions, so
course, I know it's not a surprise. But can you
I've
tell us?
actually never really spoken about it on Twitter though, or on a Spaces, I don't
Oh,
think.
well, this will be a first then. Can you tell us how long it was from the moment that you started to suspect something was not quite right until the moment you were the first actually to report to management your suspicions?
I was suspicious for a little while. I didn't feel safe to just start throwing around cheating allegations right away. I just thought that would be wild because it was just my own brain telling me like this doesn't look right. And I remember like just making weird faces, like feeling like this isn't right. This doesn't feel right. And I will say so before I even went to management with it, I went to like somebody I really respected, somebody I thought was a much better poker player than me, and that I like looked up to.
Sure.
And I said, I think something's off with my Postle. I think something's going on. I think he's doing something. I don't know what, I don't know how, but I think he's doing something to cheat. And this person who I really respected basically just said no, like I don't. It just said that how unlikely that just most likely wasn't the case. It was just probably something else, and it was just he just kind of shot it down.
Right.
And that was kind of me being bold to like speak out, but I continued watching the show and never want or commentating on the show. And it was interesting, nobody who watched the show regularly ever came into the chat and was like, "What the hell? He's cheating. This doesn't even make sense." Nobody ever said that in chat,
Which
right?
is so
No,
incredible. I think about
nobody
that
ever
5
said
years.
that
Yeah,
to.
it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
right. No, it's okay. It's just nobody ever said that in chat. Nobody ever said that to me.
Right.
Veronica and I were not talking at the time. We're friends now, and we had been friends before, but during this time period, her and I weren't talking. We weren't doing shows together. Um, and so nobody I felt alone on an island thinking this guy was
Absolutely.
cheating and like wanting to not knowing how to confront the situation. And so I went to people I trusted and also fearing that somebody was in on it, not knowing who's the right person to go
Right.
to talk about it. So I ended up going to 2 people that I thought I could trust who may not have been. But I did that may not have been the best people. But I did, end up going to the tournament director, Justin Karitis, and telling him that I thought Mike was cheating. And it was probably a a couple of months, I would say, of me suspecting it, a few months of me suspecting it
Well,
before I built up the courage on my own to like and enough data and enough times where I'm just like, okay, this is still not making sense and I don't care what anyone else thinks. I am like, it just
and
doesn't
I'm
it
going
doesn't
to
add up.
tell you, bravo to you to build that courage. And I get that, everybody can certainly understand that you wanted to be, have proof before you blew it up and blew up somebody's, spot, so to speak. And so kudos to you for finding the courage because that is not an easy, road to take. As you said, you were an island by yourself because at that time you didn't realize Veronica was suspecting anything either. So when you had that chat with Justin, what was his reply to
He was
you?
so suspicious and weird. His reply was so weird. He was like, "Let me take you to lunch. Let's go to lunch. Let's go to lunch and talk about it." He just immediately started trying to manage me.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
like manage what I
Yep.
might be thinking
Yep.
or what I might be, and that's a really interesting thing for him to do. It's like his first response was, "Let me take her somewhere where I can influence her to not think this way."
Right.
So his first thought as his job was to take me to lunch by myself, and on that lunch, and I was like, okay, let's go lunch. During that lunch, it was basically him selling me on the fact that there was no cheating, that he knows Mike, and that Mike is doing these specific certain things. And on top of that, he was known to catch that Justin Caritas himself was the catcher of cheaters, and that in his last job he had caught cheaters, and that like he runs a ship where catching cheating is like so important to him, and not on his watch. And then he goes on to tell me that he's hiring an outside auditing team to come in
Wow.
and make sure everything is up and running good and there's no cheating happening, and da 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 da. So I mean, literally just everything he could to be like, let's nip this in the bud, you
So
know?
when you left that meal, were you more suspicious now of two people, or did he put your concerns to rest?
He didn't put my concerns to rest, but I did feel like often I felt many times in my life as a woman that feels like I live in a man's world in many ways, especially when I'm wor- in working relationships where I have a man for boss, or I'm in the corporate world, and
Right.
I'm where I feel like I'm supposed to be the good girl. Where I've had that since I'm growing up in Oklahoma, like I'm supposed to be the good
Oh,
girl and
trust
listen
me.
and follow
Any
directions
any
and make
female in the
sure.
business world has felt the same way you have felt. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So I felt like he was telling me, sit down and be a good girl.
Right.
And he was paying my bills, and he was in charge of my career, and at the like and so I felt like, nobody thinks this is happening. This is my boss. He's telling what I really felt reassured by was him selling me on this outside audit team. That was what made me feel good. I was like, okay, he's not just saying there's no cheating. He's saying he's going to look into it.
Right.
He's saying we're going to investigate it.
Right.
So that was the thing that really appeased me.
Of
Was like,
course.
okay, we're going after this. He's serious about making sure there's no cheating. He doesn't think cheating's happening, but even so, he's going to do the due diligence, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. And that was what I wanted.
Of course. And so, how long after that meal did Veronica go public on Twitter with it?
It was a while, because what ended up happening was I ended up getting cast for the Thirst Lounge, and so I left California and flew to the Virgin Islands, and left the show while this all this auditing and special investigation is supposed to be happening. And so I leave, and then basically it was probably a month to 2 months later, because I think that like my text messages to lunch was, I think, was in January, and I don't remember all the exact
Sure,
dates
sure,
now.
sure,
Maybe
sure.
it was late in the year, but and it was probably a couple of months, and I invited Berkey. Berkey was doing some sort of challenge. He was a friend of mine, and he was doing like trying to make a certain amount of money and so quickly playing cash. I invited him to the game. I said, hey, you want to play in a big game that's like all these donkeys, and like, because that's oftentimes what our games were,
Sure.
really bad players. Um, and so I invited Berkey to the game. They came, and Marley came, and Shoto came, because I had told them about it. And so, due diligence, thinking about Mike Postle, I reached out to the game runner, who was a friend of mine who ran the high stakes game, and I said, let me see the player list. I wanted to know who was playing on the game.
Sure, your
So
friends
he
are
sends
coming.
me Yeah, so he sends me the players list, and Mike Postle's name's not on there. So I'm like,
Perfect.
great,
Yep.
perfect. Um, so then from the Virgin Islands, I turn on the stream, and I just remember my throat dropping into my stomach, like just seeing Mike Postle was on the stream. Because I just remember being like, oh no,
Ugh.
oh God, like feeling that pit in my stomach. At this time, remind you, nobody thought he was cheating as far as I knew, except
Right.
for me.
Right.
And I invite these friends, I check to see if he's not on the list. He's not on the list, and then I turn on the show and he's on there, and I just am like, "Oh no, like I can't warn them now. They've taken their phones away."
Right.
Uh and so anyway, it was after that night that it came out that Veronica made that post. But at the time, I was like upset initially when Veronica came out on Twitter and put that Mike Postle was cheating, because from my perspective, I thought, why are we like announcing this to the world instead of catching him? Because
Right.
I thought, like, now we're not going to catch him, because I was like, we're basically telling him that we're about to start investigating. And in my head, I was like, we're supposed to be investigating this guy. Let's catch him red-handed. Let's grab his phone. Let's do all this sort of stuff. Let's not go on Twitter and like announce it to
Right.
everybody so that we can't
L-
catch him. That was
Yeah.
my
Let's not tip
initial.
him off. Right. Let's not tip him off.
Right. And that's why I was frustrated. I was frustrated with Veronica. I kind of blamed her for like chasing fame and clout over like actually trying to catch Mike. And was like, her and I again had already was already kind of upset at Veronica over some other things we'd had fallings outs on. But I again, Veronica and I are good now. And I want to make sure to say as a follow-up, I was wrong with that initial perspective, because what I didn't realize and what I wasn't thinking about at the time was that there were other people that were in on it that weren't going to let that happen. So, like me going to Justin and telling him that I thought Mike was cheating, and him telling me doing all this investigation.
Right.
Mike started acting weird to me after that. Like he tried to give me a tip one night. Postle did. So Justin had to have told him like Casey's on to us or something. Um, so
How
I just,
awkward was that he was trying to tip you all of a sudden?
he was like drunk
Oh.
and being weird, but yeah, it was really strange to me. And I started to wonder,
Oh.
does he know? Like he looked at me different, and I'm somebody who picks up on body
Yeah.
language and
Me
like
too,
looks,
girl.
and like
Me
that's like
too.
my main thing. And I'm like, he knows. And I played with him one night, and he didn't play anything weird against me. He didn't. I just felt like he knows that I know. I
Yep.
felt like he knew that I knew. And so looking back on it now, my initial assessment of Veronica was like the way she came out and did it was possibly the only way we could have actually ignited change, because we had all these gatekeepers that were likely in on it, and it wasn't going to no one was going to come and run and grab his phone that was part of the Stones team. No one was going to like actually make that happen, because
Right.
if they would have already done it whenever I came to them, when Veronica came to them, when Bart came to them, and they weren't. So, I think what Veronica did was necessary.
Right. It was the last resort because you're trying to
Yeah,
handle it behind the scenes. And guess what? The ones we're going to are more than likely in on it. So the only other choice you have is to go public, because
exactly.
management is deaf ears or they're in on it.
Or
So
they're in on it. Exactly.
is there anything that about that whole situation that you um, feel hasn't been told yet? Or we may have misconceptions as the public about?
Hmm. I mean, there's always things that maybe haven't been told because nobody's trying to get sued. I mean, when I say that, I just mean there's people that I think I know who was doing certain things that I'm not gonna I don't know. I don't have any facts, but just like looking back on weird little things, I think, yeah, this guy was probably helping, you know.
And
Um,
we're going to skip right over that because we don't want anybody getting in trouble. And we are just, sharing our opinions, right?
yeah,
Just
right. So,
sharing our opinions.
there's things like that, and there's I guess there's so much to unpack there. It's been a lot of years, but I remember when that all that came out, and I just felt like people were coming at me super hard. I mean, I think everyone felt like that. But Doug Polk was making
Sure.
videos, and
Sure.
it was really. I just remember crying for a few days, just being like, feeling like everyone was just. It was just so much hate coming, and honestly, like I had really tried and wanted to protect. I remember there was the hardest thing. One of the hardest things for me was a player, Watt Bry, who played on the stream a lot. He after that happened, he said, "Kasey, we were friends. Um, I wish you would have told me. I wish you would have said something to me. I wish you would have given me a heads up that you thought Mike might be cheating." And I just remember feeling so much like shame and guilt that I didn't do a better job protecting the players earlier, and that I didn't trust myself more and be willing to speak up more sooner.
Yeah, but you
Um,
can't take that on either, Casey, because you were trying to gather facts. You were trying to go to management about it. I mean, you cannot beat yourself up about it. You know, it
yeah.
had to develop on its own, and the facts had to be gathered and released at the right time. And yeah, is it unfortunate there was collateral damage? Yeah, but it's not your fault. It's the cheater's fault or the alleged cheater's fault. So
Yeah,
don't
I
take that
agree.
on.
I mean, ultimately, I agree. I just wish that I had had like a stronger sense of confidence and belief in myself. I think, as a side topic, so many being in the corporate world and working for other people. And one reason I want to work for myself, and one reason that feeling like you're taken care of and you live in abundance and you have enough of the things to take care of yourself, is feeling like you are nobody's slave, and that you are uh, always free to really stand up and speak up. And being a whistleblower is can be really hard and really scary when your livelihood is tied to the what you're doing. And this is just like such a great example of like how important it is to just um stand for what you believe in, and believe in yourself, and have confidence, and be willing to even fail in believing in yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think yeah, I think again, just going back to being a woman and so often feeling like I'm supposed to be a certain thing and be a certain way, and trying to untrain that out of myself. And poker has been such a good gift for me, because so many of the things I used to think about myself, I've had to let go of in trade for extreme self-belief and confidence, and knowing how talented and smart and capable I am. And so I think
Good for you.
breaking down those walls and stepping into being grown and confident and willing to,
And
um,
sometimes those that the
stand up.
well, and that standing up is an uncomfortable place to be. You know, it's not easy. I mean, I find myself doing that a lot of times, and 95% of the time, you're standing alone for a good portion of the beginning of the process, right? And it's not an easy place to be, but I commend you for finding that courage. And I'm going to let Donna go ahead. I see her hand is raised. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, do you think it had any impact that you was both women that actually brought it up and it wasn't a man? Because to me, you got a lot of bullying regarding this
Mhm.
matter. And do you think it would have been different if a man would have brought it to the attention of the public?
It probably would have been different. Or honestly, with these specific people, and the way people respect certain voices over other voices, I think that it very likely could have been different if it was a different person who was bringing it to management. But again, that all depends on like who was involved and how invested they were in covering it up. But ultimately, I do think that that often does have a play in it. And I know that Justin would shit talk Veronica already. He already had issue with Veronica. He was already saying things about her uh, that were negative, and like wanting to like discredit her. So um, I think that it definitely plays a huge role in the voices that we listen to, and how that would have been different.
Yeah, of course, Veronica's very strong, got a very strong opinion, and she's a very strong woman, as we all
Exactly.
have to be in poker.
Yeah, I agree. And so that can be like kind of threatening and scary, I think, to some
Absolutely.
people. So
Absolutely.
but that's all right. They're just gonna have to get used to it.
Well, let me ask you this. How did you feel about the outcome?
Disappointed. I wanted to see, my whole thing from the beginning, like wanting him to get caught red-handed, and like I love, science. I love the facts. I love to like get down to it. Like I wanted to have the phone. I wanted to know exactly how I did it. We can see here what he's been doing. I was disappointed that um that
You didn't get
more
the
didn't
answers.
happen. That it felt like he just got off. That it felt like, nothing was officially proven like this. Even now, it's like nothing can say was ever officially proven. Um and so much, and he never faced any real consequences other than being ostracized in a certain area, but has shown up in other areas wearing prosthetic noses and winning tournaments or whatever. So, yeah, I was a little disappointed that, like
Understandable.
so often in life, that I've seen many times before, people don't, get the punishment that they need in our time. So,
Understandable. Definitely understandable. And John Robertson, do you have any questions about that, what we've spoken about so far, or any other questions, Bud?
No, I'd rather focus on Casey herself than a scandal that she happened to be around for. I'd rather focus on her positive stuff. So whenever you guys are done, I'll chime in.
Okay, perfect. Donna, any other questions about the Postle thing?
None whatsoever. I
Okay,
think we're beating a dead horse now.
I think
But thank you for,
I
yeah,
just
thank
wanted
you for answering that.
of
Kasey to
course,
have her voice heard on that subject, because I think it's important that we never forget, but more importantly, that Kasey has found her voice and we should listen to it. So I appreciate you discussing that with us,
of course.
for sure. Now, I want to do some rapid fire. I'm going to give you two choices, and you pick one or the other, or you can say pass, okay?
Oh, goodness. All
I'll be
right.
gentle, I promise. Gummy bears or chocolate?
Oh God, both? Gummy bears.
Both is okay. Um, Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Cook or do the dishes?
Fuck. Pass.
You- My answer would be order out. But anyway,
Oh,
uh,
exactly, exactly.
hot
Oh,
dogs
that's what's
or hamburgers?
shit. We're gonna go. Uh, a hamburger, I guess.
Um,
There's
Summer,
some tough ones.
well, but not too bad. Summer or winter?
Shoot, summer.
Texting or a phone call?
Phone call all day, every day.
Comedy or action movie?
Neither. Give me drama. Comedy, comedy, comedy.
All right. Thank you for playing. See, I was gentle.
Yeah, you could have gotten more out there. I would have gone there with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, John Robertson. Now it's your turn. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, I would like to discuss. You said that you have a son, not
We
right?
do, yeah.
Right, and you mentioned that is very important to you, and I think that's fantastic. My daughter is very close to me. So if he showed interest later in life in wanting to get serious about playing cards, what advice would you give him, and what stipulations would you put on him, like to
Oy
teach him to
vey.
play?
How old's your daughter?
She's 12.
12. Okay, so similar age. My son's 11. It's starting to get fun around this age. Um, you know, I have been scared to let Rhett get too involved in it because I just like a lot of things that can happen in life. I feel like there's a lot of ways to do it wrong and only a few ways to do it right. And that's kind of scary to me. You hope to influence your children, teach them how to make good choices and good decisions, and instill all of these skills in them that will leave them prepared to handle life and to handle things. I think there's so many great things with poker that he gets to learn about mental toughness, mindset, statistics, math, budgeting, strategic thinking, future planning, executive function, it's just like endless good things. But then we see, people going broke, losing it all, not being able to take care of their family and friends, having addiction to gambling, it going further into like having horrible sports gambling addictions, and then going to the dark side and playing craps, and um losing even more, and just not focusing on the right things, being outside, all these sorts of things. We see people like kind of getting trapped in this kind of mindset. And then you also see some of the best, smartest minds in the world loving and going towards poker. So I want to like influence Rhett to take the positives, learn the important things that poker can teach us. And he does. Like, he helps me like talk about cash, budgeting, playing cash versus tournaments, and which one's more profitable, and how much money we should be putting away of our profits versus reinvesting into our game. And those are the kinds of parameters and things I would want him to focus on, while probably pushing him towards a different career choice.
I'm so proud to hear somebody else say basically the exact same thing that I've taught my daughter. I was like, I'll teach you how to play, and we'll talk about the math, and we'll talk about the strategy, and we'll talk about, all the great things you can get from it. And like, she's honestly like taken that to become really good in her math class. But I've always said, but you have to promise me you'll never try to go pro. Like, I mean, well, because she knows that I did that for a while in my life, and I
Yeah.
told her, I was like, it's a great way, it's a great side hustle, it's a lot of fun, and no shade to people that are professionals and do well at it. I feel like it's not always the most fulfilling, and I want to make sure she finds something that she enjoys and loves, but also can use it for fun and strategy. So I appreciate your answer. I resonate with it 100%.
Awesome.
Donna,
Same page.
and for our audience, if you'd like to come up and ask Kasey any questions or make any comments, please request that microphone in the bottom left-hand corner. Donna, any more questions or comments for Kasey?
I do. Who's your favorite poker player and why?
Hmm. You know, I look up to so many players. I really do like Lucky Chewy. I love his vibe. He's just like got such like a Zen, I call it a Zen daddy vibe. Like both him and Andrew Marino, but especially Lucky Chewy.
We love
Uh,
them here in Spaces. They both come out and done interviews with me, and we love the both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. On the women's front, I've always looked up so much to Maria Ho. I feel like she's just such a class act, but that's like everybody's answer, and Christina Foxton. But I oftentimes look to like find somebody, well, like who's somebody like me? And although I like idolize Maria Ho and Kristen Foxton, I feel like I'm so different from them, but that's okay. Like I'm like, well, I can just be me, and then maybe someday I'll be like where they're at, and then somebody will be like, "Well, I'm like Casey." So I'm very different, but I really respect them. Vanessa Phelps was considered like a highly aggressive. The way she thought about the game was very different. Vanessa Russo was like an old school person that I like. I would say Vanessa Russo, even though she doesn't hardly play anymore. I really thought she was so smart, so
I
strategic. She
love
went on.
Vanessa, and the good news is she's starting to play again.
I know, she followed me on Instagram and I about died. I was like,
Love it.
Vanessa Russo followed me. But yeah, she went so far, even on Big Brother, she got final three. I remember watching the
Yeah,
live feeds and seeing her using her fingers and counting out all the numbers of like how many were left and what way she needed to navigate to make sure, she studied game theory. And I just thought she was really, really cool.
love her.
So yeah.
Love her. Great question, Donna. Did you have some more love?
I do. I've got a couple
Go
more.
ahead.
How how do you feel when people come up to you and say hi Poker Mommaa or hi Kasey?
It
Have
may
you gotten used to it yet?
It makes me feel so good, like, and cared about, and like as a way to connect. I'm generally very good one-on-one. I'm not the best in groups. I get overwhelmed in like big social situations, but like when one person like comes up to me and is like says, "Hey, I enjoy your content," or "I love to see what you're doing," or it was inspiring to me or whatever. I literally just feel overwhelmed. There's not, or not overwhelmed, I feel so overjoyed. There's nothing that I want more that feels better than to me than somebody to say, like, I've had women say to me, like, seeing what you've done, like, made me believe that I like believe in myself and feel like it. And the way you're putting yourself out there, like, I really, it inspires me, or like it. And I literally am like, it feels like an extra purpose in my life where I'm helping people, and there's nothing better in this world. Like, playing a zero sum game where only one person can win and you're taking for others to get more profit for yourself. Finding ways to like feel like you're helping, you're giving back to the world, that what you're doing is having a positive impact becomes so important. And those moments are where I'm reminded that what I'm doing is capable of doing that.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, it was just, I said to Sherry, I says, I will see Poker Mommaa while I'm here, but I wasn't going to search you out. I thought, no, because that's a bit rude, you'll be playing. And it just happened that we was outside and you was speaking to Dara, and I thought, oh, perfect opportunity. Yeah. And it
That
was
was so
so
nice. I had
nice to
seen you
meet
a few
you.
times before. I saw you at a restaurant once and had wanted to say hi. You were having dinner with a few people. I think at Bavette's or something. Anyway, I can't remember. I'd seen you somewhere before a couple of times, and I had wanted to meet you. So
Love that.
It's so awkward as well because, like, I'm like, as I say, I came from a small pond and now I'm known all over the world. So, like, to me, it's still strange that people actually know me. On my next and my last question is, who's the person that you've had most fun on the table with
okay,
whilst playing?
Great question.
wow, who have I had the most fun with? There's some players that are really fun to play with. Joe Stapleton's super fun to play with. He's always just like fun and
We
lively.
love Joe. You see all those hundreds
He's just a
going
good
up and those
time, you
hearts?
know?
We love Joe here in the spaces.
Yeah, he just makes me feel good. Like, yeah, I'd say Joe.
Love it. Thank you, Donna. I'm going to make one quick announcement and then we'll get to our two new panelists. So, I want to thank my sponsor, Elevator Results, again. If you need a tailor made workout plan to help you lose weight or gain weight, Elevator Results can help design that plan. Follow them on Twitter and check out their site at elevatorresultspt.com. Now, I'm going to let ladies go first, Matt. So, welcome, Karen. Meet Kasey if you don't already know her.
Yeah, hi Casey. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So I have a question. You were saying that you used to be part of Jaka coaching, and I was wondering if you still are. Do you still work on your game, and if you're studying, and what do you do, and what are some good resources? I'm also part of Jaka coaching now, but I just
I
love to
do.
hear.
I thought Jaka's stuff was so good. A
Hmm.
lot of really great content to help you level up, and he's great at teaching. I think a lot of his videos are great at teaching how to add aggression into your game, which I think is really, really important in different ways, and so that you're not just always playing so straightforward. So I loved Jaka so much for that. Right now, I've been using a lot more GTO Wizard and like custom spots and like taking notes and talking them over with other players. And that's how I've been setting a lot lately. Like when I make a final table, running stems for for the spots and like how I'm supposed to play and what ranges I'm supposed to be to playing and stuff. And then I still play a ton of cash, so I switch back and forth and go back and forth between studying um cash and tournaments as well, so that I stay both deep, able to do deep stack and tournaments. But yeah, it's a wide variety, but lately a lot more GTO Wizard.
Oh, and thank you. I love GTO Wizard.
Oh, and you know what else I've been using is Octopi, which is Chewy and Victoria Lifshitz. They're doing some really cool stuff there, and they also have a trainer where you can just go through. Jaka's really great for like videos. I think he's exceptional for that. These on the Octopi, if you can't it's a little bit more affordable than GTO Wizard, but it has an incredible trainer for like teaching you GTO spots where you can just run through tons and tons of hands and like it will tell you how to play optimally, teach you how to play them optimally.
Yeah, I saw they just released their aggregate reports on Octopi, and it looks great.
It is, yeah.
Love it. Love it. We had Chewy on. He was telling us all about it. And I know that quite a few of our listeners signed up after that interview, which I think is also very cool. Matt, welcome
Yeah.
to the panel, and please meet Kasey.
Thank you, Sherry. Hello to everybody, and to you, Casey, as well. Hope you're keeping well across the pond.
Hi, Matt. Thank you.
Hi. Excellent. I've seen you play in a lot of tournaments, and you play really, really well. Do you have a particular tournament that you like to play in?
I like to play in good structured ones, but I would say the main event. The main event is my favorite one to play in. I'm going to win that one someday. But I would say I really structure is super important to me. I do prefer like a little bit of a bigger buy-in. So generally like around the circuit main is a great one or um like around that 1500 1K to $1,500 mark is really really good for me. I think the player pool I tend to do really well against and I feel really comfortable at that price point. I like whenever we have it start with a deep stack. I really really like to start deep stacked. Coming from a cash game background and liking to put people in tough spots and all of those sorts of things um I just also I want to be able to like have some bad luck and some bad distribution and still have chips to start to overcome. So yeah, deep stacked, long structure, that price level and is big. And I don't really I prefer if we could have like eight max, 6 to 8 max. I don't really like 9 or 10 handed as much.
That sounds amazing. And sorry, Sherry, do you want to? Would you
You
like
go
to go?
right ahead. Did you have another question or comment? Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, Sherry.
No,
Apologise
you're
for that.
fine. No worries.
Okay. Casey, now I know you were saying about the main event. I have to say it is one of my favourite tournaments. I love watching because we used to watch it a lot over here on. I think it was BT Sport back then that we had over here before they lost the rights to it. I was gonna ask if you were to go heads up against any poker player, past or present, who would it be and why?
The worst one?
Or maybe the best one.
What?
I was gonna say, sorry, did I say what? I meant the best player who you would like to go heads up
Okay.
against.
I mean, I want to win here. I want to choose the worst possible player if we're playing heads up in the main event. Um, so the best player to play heads up where I can just prove like I'm really the best in the world because I beat the best type of thing. Um, Let me think about who I would really like to go up against. Interesting. Who do I just, oh, maybe Jason Kuhn or Phil Ivy, one of these types. Some of these super crushers, maybe pads. Some of these guys like pads. I'd love to just crush him heads up. Man, that would feel so awesome. Oh, just dreaming about it gets me a little
Yes.
excited. Yeah, let me take down pads heads up. How about that?
We love that.
Go get him,
We
Casey.
love that. Absolutely love that. Matt, did you have any other questions, buddy?
Thank you, Sherry, again. I was gonna ask you, Casey, have you ever visited the over here across the pond?
I would love to. Can you guys stop raining long enough for me to enjoy some time over there, though? Um,
I think it's supposed to snow, right? Is it snowing yet, Donna?
It's not snowing yet, but it is snowing somewhere in the country right now.
I've been to a few places overseas, but I have not yet been to the UK, but I would like to. I think I need to just make a poker trip out of it since you have so many good poker events. I think there's been in my head, I feel that the fields are going to be way tougher over there. And there's always so many good events here, and the player pools I feel like in America are way weak or very weak. I obviously haven't played a lot of UK events, but I've both heard that and I feel like a lot of the fields are much softer. But I would love to just make a trip out of it and go to like an EPT or something like that.
That sounds really, really good. That I was going to say as well. Have you heard of the what's it called now? There's a tournament that's going to be taking place soon. It's on. I think it's on YouTube now. It's the and Joe Stapleton. Sherry, can you
I'm
remember
trying.
when Joe Stapleton was
Is
on?
it in the UK? Is it in UK?
It's in well, we can watch it over here on YouTube. I believe the tournament is it's something on tour that Joe Stapleton commentates on.
Uh,
Oh,
Now.
the Poker Stars one then, right?
Yeah, the Poker Stars, that's the
Okay,
one.
yeah, I
Yes,
just
that.
saw my girlfriend Caitlin just made a reel about that. I can tell you which event it is. I was just commenting on this. It is the Scoop warm up.
That's the one. Yes,
Is
I
it?
was thinking. One, yeah.
Yeah.
are you going to it, Kasey?
Oh,
No, and that maybe that's online. I'm not. I am
Oh,
not.
Poker
There's some
Stars.
stuff
You
going
did
on
say
here in
Poker Stars. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff going on here, both in Austin and in Houston, some tournament series. So whenever there's stuff close, I tend to try to do that. I've been traveling so much lately. I've been trying to grind more cash. So like right now, I'll be after we finish our spaces, I'll go play cash here in the card room, and then may go down to Austin or Houston to play their main events. They're like 1 million guaranteed mains.
Yeah, they have some great stuff going on down at the lodge. That's for sure. You can't
Yeah.
go wrong going to the lodge right now. That's for sure. Karen, did you have any other questions or comments, Karen?
I can't think of any questions, but I've certainly enjoyed getting to know Kasey better. This has been a great space.
Thank you,
Aw.
Karen. Appreciate that. John Roberts, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I would like to, as someone from the Midwest, what do you think your experience growing up or learning and getting into poker was differently from someone who lives on, say, the East Coast, West Coast, or Vegas? What do you think the middle of America has different or unique for it in that aspect?
It's hard to say, but I will say, like here and in Oklahoma, we have like a lot of cowboys, a lot of like truckers, a lot of like uh, uh businessmen and stuff, which you see on the coast too. But a lot of the Midwestern style, and I would say that they tend to like to play big, play splashy. A lot of bigger sizes, bigger openings. They say everything's bigger in Texas. That includes their bet sizes, their open sizes, their bluffs. Everything's a little bigger. So I would say that growing up in the Midwest, I did see a lot of this like kind of style of play. Um, that whenever I went out to Stones, I didn't see as much of. It was different style for sure than Texas and Oklahoma for sure, as far as like how they play. There definitely wasn't like a lot of studied players. It's a lot more of feel players. And sometimes, people that are more studied don't give some of the field players enough credit because some of these guys will outplay you so hard because they're very, very smart despite not being solver studied, and they do have their own style that works for them. But yeah, I definitely say big and splashy around the Midwest.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. Uh, every time I go to Texas, I'm like, okay, remember the 1-3 plays like a 5-10.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
We just opened a 1-2 uncapped here at a new game. And some of the games here are just incredible. Yet, whatever game you
they're
normally play,
nuts.
you're gonna have to go down one level.
Yes. Okay, I got a message from Ryan Robb, and I'm glad you messaged me because he gave me some information. We talked about Cody Stanford earlier in his little 35 buy-in. So this is what Ryan Robb said. Cody did win the triple stack after 35 rebuys or $18,000 in rebuys, and it was 181,000 for first place. So just a
Wow.
little
So
bit of
he did 18 buy-ins and then he won it for 100. So he spent he spent 18,000, then he won it for 100 something thousand.
right. So did he
Okay.
buy his way to the final table? I don't know. Where there's so
You
many
know,
different ways to
it's
look at that.
there are because, I've heard a lot of different arguments on this, and one of them is that every buy-in is a new tournament. It's
Right.
it's a whole new tournament. But I
Yeah.
also understand these people who want to have equal chances, and like that's why I just really think that there should be freeze out reentries, and then some unlimited, and then let the players choose. But you would want the guarantees to be the same. The problem is that if the guarantees are just so much bigger on the unlimited, because these guys are in there firing
Right.
35
Right.
bullets. If he hadn't win, I would have been like, hey, he's just donating to your prize pool. But if you're the type of player that each bullet, you really can look at it like a new tournament, and can still play well and end up winning the event. Some of these guys who are playing 20 bullets, they're dead money. They have no
Well,
chance
and
of winning.
and the thing about it in this case, he was literally going all in blind every hand. And that really kind of screws over the table,
Yeah.
the other
Trying to
people at
build
the
the stack
table.
so then he can apply
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that, what if that was your first tournament? What if it was somebody's first tournament? You're at this table with this guy
Yeah.
and now, mind you, he
Kind
probably
of
didn't
ruins your
stay at this.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to think about when you have that going on, and exactly my thing. What I brought up when we discussed it in other spaces is what percentage of people are buying more than six times? How many are, what percentage of players are buying in more than 10 times? What percentage of players are buying in more than 20 times? And, if that, is that 3% of the player
Right.
pool?
So
Are
they're
we
saying like cut out the outliers.
yeah, so are you catering to 3% and the other 97% that can't or maybe don't want to buy in 20
Yeah,
times?
I
Is
think
it
that's a
fair to
really good
just,
point.
so I think there's so much to look at there, but I'm good with like six or eight rebuys, as a limit, but that's just me.
Yeah,
Because I also get how attractive it is to have those big, prize pools. We all love those huge prize pools.
right,
So,
exactly. Hard to get those freeze outs.
yeah, right. And so I see, just as a side note, I see Ruben, who's on the run, has joined us. Hey, Ruben, a little shout out to Ruben. Okay, I have to tell you, Kasey, the men of our spaces have been a buzz about you joining us tonight. So I promised one of them, or maybe a couple of them, that I would ask you the following question. Are you a free woman or do you have a significant other?
Both. I am a totally free woman, um, able to date and all that, and I also am seeing someone and have been for a year. So there's the answer to that question. I'm
Well,
I'm
thank
both a
you.
completely free woman, able to date, and I also have somebody that I care about.
Awesome. And, we just have to, give those men hope out there, as they say. Danny Marks, do you have any other questions or comments for Kasey?
No, thank you so much. Great to hear your story, and yeah, always down to hear some KC.
Well, thanks for joining us, Danny. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right, Donna, you bet. Donna, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, what's your plans for this year? And where can you see yourself being in the future? How long do you think you've got left in poker?
I love poker. It's a passion. It's like riding horses is a huge passion to me. And as long as my back and neck will let me, I'll be riding horses. And as long as I can, my mind and body will let me, I will be playing poker. Uh, I hope to be here for a long time. I think I'm just getting started, and I am hoping, if the poker gods allow it, I have plans for this year to be a really big year, and this is just like really the beginning of my career, I think, in poker.
I think this is the year you win your bracelet.
From
I
your
do
ears
too.
to the poker gods.
3 rings, you're prepared. You got 3 rings
That's
behind you.
right.
You got
I've
the
been warming
practice in,
up.
the seat time. Now you got the confidence. Now this year's the bracelet
That's
year.
right. And I've been honing my skills. I'm learning things because I actually wasn't that much of a tournament player. I was a cash game player for a long, long time. And, it's during the pandemic where I really started playing and in the Thirst Lounge, started playing tournaments. And now, having played them for a couple of years, I think each day two, specifically the deep game, the later game, each one I'm adding to my bank of how to play them better. I'm making massive adjustments this year that I think if I had implemented last year, I would have actually had a much bigger year than I already did. And I'm making some really big adjustments to my day two games and my late stage games. And I think it's going to pay off this year.
Good for you. Good for you to recognize it and do something about it. I'm going to let you know that this summer I'll probably be hosting a meetup game for our folks here in Spaces. And of course, anybody else that wants to join us, because the only way we can get more listeners is to invite them to join the party. So I'm going to send you an invite. If you can squeeze it into your WSOP time, we would love to have you. It's just a low rate. Low stakes cash game. The last one was at the Bellagio during the WPT. It was just a 1-3 game and we had a blast. So just want to give you a little heads up about that. And Karen, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought of one more question.
Sure.
So, yeah, I was just curious how often you play live poker and online poker. How often?
Lot. As often as I can. So I'm sitting here while we've been doing this faces, I've been putting my makeup on. I already have my name on the list to go play. I played cash 2 nights ago as well. I had it made a quick trip to Costa Rica for 4 days for vacation. Before that, I grinded the WSOP, and intermittently I'm playing cash. So I don't have an exact like hour amount of hours that I'm playing, but I'm motivated to play more often than I even can. I have a son. I'm lucky that I think so more mothers should be able to play poker if they want. In my situation, I'm very blessed. I have a good relationship with his father, who's also very active in his life. And so I get to pick my son up from school every day. I get to be with him until he goes to bed. And then I get to go play at night because his dad has got him taken care of and at night. And then I get to go grind. So, and also he's, well taken care of whenever I play tournaments. So I'm playing a lot for, I would say, at least 4 days a week. When I'm playing tournaments, sometimes I'm grinding every day for long periods of time and then back on the cash grind.
Love that.
That's great that you have that support. I know that when I travel, sometimes I'm divorced from my son's father, but if I have him that weekend and I want to go play a circuit, for example, my husband has a close relationship with my son, and they just hang out and they encourage me to go. So that it's hard for women to get away sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. I am very, very blessed with the situation I have here. I live within 5 minutes of his dad, and lucky that way that I get the freedom to play.
And your son's getting great parenting from 2 great parents, I'm sure.
He is. My son just got published. He just became a published author in 6th grade, and he's in.
What's the
Uh,
subject matter?
he was in this thing called Fright Club, where during like a hour of electives, they got to go and it was during Halloween, and they all wrote like scary stories. They could only be a
Nice.
100 words long, and then 50,000 kids submitted scary stories, and some of them from 6th grade to high school got chosen to be in a book. my little guy who's real smart and good. He got his story chosen. So proud mom. I'm always so proud of him. I'm be quick to brag on my little genius boy who's so sweet,
Wow.
emotionally
As you
intelligent.
should. Good for him. Congratulations. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Danny.
Hey, so yeah, speaking of, Casey being a mom, I always tell her that she's the best mom I've ever seen. But my question for you is, do you feel like poker has helped in your parenting and vice versa? Do you feel like parenting has helped in your poker game?
That's a really interesting one. In some ways, yes. I think there's so much duality in everything because there's definitely been times where like I was at a tournament series and I missed something because, he was going through something and I was like away and I wish I had been there. On the flip side, my son has been inspired and motivated seeing his mother follow her dreams and accomplish them, and I think he has gotten a lot of inner strength from seeing, who he comes from, be a champion and do something really well. And it's brought him a lot of pride in me and brought us closer. And he knows I do it for him. And it increases my parenting because I can take him on trips and I can spend this quality time with him and have freedom to do that because of poker, and he sees that. So in that way it allows me the freedom to be a good mom to him, to take him on trips, to spend this quality time in that way. And then as far as like having a son making me a better poker player, I would say that's 100% definite yes. I was just like floating on this space earth thing until I had my son, whenever I like really realized what life is about and had purpose and a deep, deep love and realized, what the meaning was and wanting to just take care of this little thing so much. And I think because of that, I have my card protector as a picture of my son, and he's just like my motivation. He reminds me whenever I'm feeling tired and unfocused and unmotivated, and I just want to like do something stupid because I'm bored. I can look down and remember, like, if you're away from your son right now, are you going to make it worth it? Um, and are you going to do the right thing and make the right choices so that you can provide a good life for him? So it's definitely made me a better poker player in all of those ways.
Love that. Thank you for the question, Danny. I'm going to let you off the hook so you can go ahead and play some poker. I know you're waiting to walk out that door, Casey. I appreciate you and your time, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Hopefully, we'll be on the felt together sometime. And I appreciate you. And Donna, did you want to say something, hon? Go ahead.
Yeah, you had me at cowboy, Casey. You
Absolutely.
definitely had me at cowboy. And I just want to say, I can't wait to watch your journey. And I will be supporting and rooting for you from over here. And hopefully I'll get to meet you again soon. And thank you so much for taking this interview. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for being so welcoming. And it was lovely to meet you, and I will see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Yes.
Casey. And for all of our listeners, I appreciate you. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. If you're on the felt, good luck. If you're not, get out and touch the grass, people. Much love, Casey. Good night.
Good night.